Hi there, and welcome to this video presentation about ReportLoq Soft. ReportLoq Soft is Olicem's DAS system for monitoring airborne emission from stationary sources delivered in a software package. Well, delivering such a system in a software package doesn't come without complexity. Normally, we would deliver something like this, a controller with a bus technology or a 4 to 20 milliamp signal. The AMS equipment would be connected to these interfaces and would be stored inside the data collector. Here it would be transformed to the TCP/IP stack, so the Windows-based ReportLoq installation can fetch the data using the TCP/IP stack. But when you buy ReportLoq in a software-based model, then this isn't included. And what we do instead is that we will save you the money for this one and fetch the data instead using OPC UA. OPC UA is a very well-known standard, and we have embedded a OPC UA client directly in ReportLoq. This client can be used to fetch the data directly from your control system, given of course that you have a OPC UA server there, or else you can install a OPC UA server and connect that to your control system. That is entirely up to you. Shortly after you've connected your ReportLoq server to your OPC UA server, data will be starting to flow. And these flowing data will also be stored in ReportLoq for up to 5 years and will be calculated to averages hourly or daily, or stuff like that. But this is visible in the ReportLoq UI interface. So let's go over and see how the ReportLoq UI interface is looking like. This is the user interface for ReportLoq Plus and ReportLoq Soft, for that matter. They are both offline installations and can be run completely without any kind of internet connection. As you can see here, the system is built on a web platform. That merely means that you need to use your browser in order to access it. You will, however, need to access it on a local IP address, as you will not be able to access it from the internet. When you look at the user interface here, the first thing we see is the real-time overview. We also call it the CEMS, continuous emission monitoring, where we can see the operator's view during the day. We have the raw values coming in here and being calculated in various stages to reference conditions and averaged to hourly and as well as to daily, monthly, and yearly averages. This view will be configured depending on what you are actually measuring. So if you have more components, the view will be larger. If you have lesser components, the view will of course be shorter. What we can see here from the right side is that after these green checkboxes, we have a lot of averages coming in. The averages are created from the raw values and their corrected values, and give the operator a glance of what the average will be or is at this current point in time. If there are any problems, if there are any average values that are about to be exceeded, then the average will be yellow instead of green. Could also be other colors, but yellow are the default color, and that makes it visual for the operator of the plant that they need to do something in order to avoid exceeding these average values. The current limit values from the plant's legislation is also viewable from this page. They are the gray numbers just below the average value. Let's look at some of the other UIs that are embedded in the system. We have the combined view. It actually looks a little the same. It just embeds several stacks, in this case 2 stacks. It could be more stacks. If you have a large monitor where you can zoom a little out, then you can put in more, or if you would like to exclude the alarm list, then of course there are even more space here. But it makes it possible to have a plant with several stacks and a joint overview with a quick glance. In addition to this, ReportLoq is of course a reporting system as well, so you'll have various reports coming in here. You can see, for example, the interval reports here. If I take the monthly report, then we can see every day what was the average value and has any of them generated any problems. We can see here that the HCL is marked VA at the 8th of February. and the VA here is valid but anomalous. That means that the value is actually okay, but it is too high. So at this day, they actually created a daily exceedance on their HCL that has probably been reported to the authorities at this point. There are also a lot of other different reports in here. I could, for example, mention the monthly exceedance report that makes it possible in a quick glance to see what exceedances you've been creating. This is for a waste incineration plant. It could also be for a combustion plant. In that case, you'll have some other kinds of exceedance reports that match your needs a little better than here, where we, for example, have the after combustion chamber with the 850 degrees, which is required for waste incinerators only. You can also see the discarded days until this day, and we can see that nothing is listed, so there are no discarded days for this plant at this early stage of the year. A lot of other different reports are available, and the last one I'll show you here is the mass emission report that calculates emissions to kilos, so they can be reported to the authorities. This includes plant startup and shutdown in addition to plant operation time, and means you'll have to pay taxes from these emissions also during your startup and shutdown according to EN 17255-1. In addition to this, there are various historic functions in here. You can see your exceedances and filter them out, seek them out, see how many exceedances of CO you've had the last 2 years, if that was the use case, and export them to Excel or a PDF file. And the same goes for alarms and events if you want to see how often your dust monitor has been calibrating or is failing or something like that. Let's also look very briefly at the trends module. In the trends module, you can actually see your emissions being calculated from your raw values as they were on the analyzer, and you can choose to, for example, see corrected values in addition to this. This actually means that the blue line here is what you've been seeing on your analyzer, and the orange line is what you've been seeing on your reports, because your reports are in a reference condition, and that means that we use the reference condition values for the calculations, and that may help you understand why your values, your calculated values, are not the same as the ones you can see on your analyzers when we average them for you. Calculations are not the only option in here. You can trend your values. That could be on a 30-minute average, if you please, during the last month or year, or just for a day, if that's more appropriate. There are also the option of inputting QAL in here. I believe every plant, or most plants anyway, are using the QAL2 values to take the measuring point or place into account when doing calculations. If you do that, then you could put in the A and the B value from the QAL2 report directly into ReportLoq, and that would mean that ReportLoq automatically uses the adjustment that you enter here in the subsequent calculations. If your QAL2 has failed, then you can deactivate your confidence interval at the same time, given, of course, that you are using confidence intervals at your plant. The same goes for QAL3. Well, not about confidence intervals, but it's here that you can enter them. So if you're, for example, using a span and a zero gas that you have installed on your plant, and you would like to verify if your analyzer is actually measuring the right values, then please just input the appropriate values here, and your gases will automatically be calculated accordingly to the QAL3 value. We use QSUM for calculation in this system, so you may not have any adjustment if you just put in the same value, and if your analyzer has not started to drift, then everything is fine, and then we do not calculate any adjustments. But if there are any adjustments, the UI here will show up and ask you if you would like to accept them. This is the user interface, very briefly described. There are a lot of different possibilities in ReportLoq, and it's very extensive and have a lot of different options, and is at the same time very flexible. You can use single analyzers, or you can use redundant analyzers, or whatever you have on your plant and your installation setup. But that's all for this webpage. Hope you enjoyed it. That's it for this presentation. We've gone over the hardware and we've gone over the user interfaces. There's still a lot to be said about ReportLoq, but to make this video short, I think we should end it here. Feel free to enter our website and take a look at it. The URL is here in the bottom of this video, so you can find it. And feel free to contact us if you have any additional questions about ReportLoq. Thanks for now, and see you out there.